If your cat is 10 years old or older, this video was made specifically for you, not for the general cat lover who's curious about felines, not for the new kitten parent figuring out the basics. This is for the person who has loved their cat through kittenhood, through the playful adult years, and is now watching their best friend slow down just a little, move a little differently, sleep a little more, and you're starting to wonder, what does my cat actually need from me now? Because here's the truth that most cat content completely ignores. Senior cats are not just older cats. They are fundamentally different animals with different needs, different health risks, and a different emotional landscape than the cat you brought home years ago. And the way you care for a 10-year-old cat should look nothing like the way you cared for them at 2. This video is your complete guide to all of it. We're talking daily care, nutrition, vet visits, every major disease that targets senior cats specifically, the emotional bond between you and an aging cat, and yes, the hardest part, end of life. What it looks like, how to make decisions, and how to say goodbye with no regrets. This is not a short video, it's not meant to be. Think of it as a reference guide you'll come back to again and again. Bookmark it. Share the chapters that hit closest to home. And if your cat is healthy right now, watch it anyway. Because the single biggest thing you can do for a senior cat is know what's coming before it arrives. I also want to mention early on that I have a detailed guide specifically for senior and disabled indoor cats, covering emergency protocols, first aid, and situations where every minute counts. The link is in the description, and I'll mention it again at the moments in this video where it's most relevant. Now let's get into it. Starting with a question that sounds simple, but actually changes everything. How old is your cat, really? We throw around the word senior a lot in the cat world, but most people are surprised to learn there's no universal agreement on exactly when it starts. The American Association of Feline Practitioners defines mature or middle-aged cats as those between 7 and 10 years old. Senior cats are 10 to 15, and cats 15 and older are considered super senior, or geriatric. Now compare that to how most people think about it. Most cat owners I talk to don't start thinking of their cat as old until 12 or 13, which means there's a critical window, from about 7 to 12 years, where cats are already entering the aging process, already experiencing subtle changes in their bodies, and most owners have no idea because their cat still seems fine. That gap matters, because the diseases that kill senior cats most often, kidney disease, hyperthyroidism, hypertension, are already developing quietly during those years. The earlier you catch them, the more time you have, and time is everything. So for the purposes of this video, we're going to treat 10 as our starting line. That's when the conversation about senior care needs to get serious. But if your cat is 7, 8, or 9, everything you're about to learn still applies to you. You're just getting a head start, which is exactly where you want to be. Let's talk about what aging actually does to a cat's body. Because this isn't just about gray whiskers and slower movements. The changes happening inside a senior cat are profound, and understanding them will reframe everything that comes later in this video. Start with the kidneys. Feline kidneys are extraordinary organs that filter blood, regulate hydration, and remove waste products from the body. But they have a well-known weakness. Unlike some other organs, kidney tissue does not regenerate. When kidney cells are damaged or die, they're gone. And over a lifetime of filtering everything a cat eats, drinks, and metabolizes, the cumulative wear adds up. By the time a cat reaches senior status, most of them have already lost a meaningful percentage of their kidney function, often without any outward signs at all. The thyroid gland changes too. In senior cats, the thyroid has a tendency to develop small benign nodules that cause it to produce too much thyroid hormone. This condition, hyperthyroidism, is so common in older cats that some vets call it an epidemic, and it can disguise itself as a cat who just seems really energetic and hungry for their age, which sounds like a good thing until you understand what's actually happening inside. The immune system weakens with age, just as it does in humans. This means senior cats are more vulnerable to infections, slower to recover from illness, and more likely to develop certain cancers. It also means vaccines that worked perfectly at 2 years old may offer less protection at 12. The brain changes. Neurons are lost. Pathways that once fired quickly become slower. Memory, spatial awareness, and sleep-wake cycles can all be affected. And while we don't talk about it nearly enough, feline cognitive dysfunction, the cat equivalent of dementia, affects a significant portion of cats over 15. Joints wear down. Muscle mass decreases, particularly after 10 years old, in a process called sarcopenia. The digestive system becomes less efficient at absorbing nutrients, which means a senior cat can be eating plenty and still be malnourished. And through all of this, cats do what cats have always done. They hide it. Not deliberately, not to trick you. It's instinct, bone deep and ancient. In the wild, showing weakness invites predation. So cats have evolved to mask pain, mask illness, mask decline, better than almost any other domestic animal, which means by the time a senior cat is showing obvious symptoms, things have often been developing quietly for months or years. This is not meant to scare you, it's meant to explain why paying attention to subtle changes matters so much and why the information in this video is worth your time. Let's clear up one of the most persistent myths in cat ownership while we're at it. The idea that 1 human year equals 7 cat years. You've probably heard this your whole life. It's simple, it's memorable, and it's wrong. Cat aging is not linear. A 1-year-old cat is roughly equivalent to a 15-year-old human in terms of physical and sexual maturity. A 2-year-old cat is closer to a 25-year-old human. After that, the aging slows down, and each additional year is roughly equivalent to about 4 human years. So a 10-year-old cat is closer to a 56-year-old human. A 15-year-old cat is somewhere around 76. A 20-year-old cat, and yes, cats do reach 20, is pushing 96 in human equivalent terms. Why does this matter? Because it changes how you think about their needs. A 56-year-old human needs different health care, different nutrition, and different activity levels than a 25-year-old. You wouldn't give your 56-year-old parent the same diet and exercise plan you had at 25 and expect the same results. Your cat deserves the same thoughtfulness. Here's something that surprises a lot of people. Indoor cats and outdoor cats age differently. Outdoor cats and cats with outdoor access face more physical stress throughout their lives. Environmental hazards, temperature extremes, parasites, infectious diseases, and the physical demands of navigating outdoor territory all take a toll. Many outdoor cats simply don't live long enough to become seniors in the way we're discussing. The average outdoor cat lifespan is significantly shorter than their indoor counterparts. Indoor cats, protected from those external stressors, often live well into their teens and beyond. But that protection comes with its own considerations. Indoor cats tend to be less physically active, which contributes to obesity and muscle loss. They can be more prone to boredom and understimulation, which affects mental health. And because they're living longer, they're more likely to develop the chronic age-related diseases we'll spend the bulk of this video on. If your cat is strictly indoor, congratulations. You've likely given them the foundation for a longer life. Now the job is making those extra years genuinely good ones. Breed also plays a role in how cats age. Some breeds are predisposed to certain conditions earlier than others. Maine Coons and Ragdolls have a higher incidence of hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, the most common heart disease in cats. Persians are more prone to kidney issues. Siamese cats have a higher rate of certain cancers and respiratory conditions. Knowing your cat's breed background, or getting a genetic test for mixed breeds if you're curious, gives you useful information about what to watch for. That said, mixed breed cats, sometimes called domestic shorthairs or longhairs, often have what's called hybrid vigor. a genetic diversity that can offer some protection against breed-specific conditions. Some of the longest-lived cats in recorded history have been ordinary mixed-breed cats with no pedigree at all. So what does the beginning of senior aging actually look like? What should you be watching for in a cat who is entering this phase of life? The changes are often subtle enough that they're easy to rationalize away. The cat who used to leap to the top of the cat tree now stops at the middle platform. You tell yourself they just prefer it there. The cat who used to greet you at the door now stays on the couch. You tell yourself they're just more independent now. The cat who used to finish their bowl completely now leaves a little behind. You tell yourself they're just being picky. Sometimes those explanations are correct, but in a cat over 10, a cluster of small changes happening over weeks or months is worth paying attention to, not because something is definitely wrong, but because catching something early, if something is developing, is the single most powerful tool you have. Watch for changes in water consumption. Senior cats with early kidney disease or diabetes will often drink noticeably more. It can be easy to miss unless you're paying attention. Watch for weight changes in both directions. Weight loss in a senior cat, even gradual weight loss when the cat still seems to be eating, is one of the most common early signs of hyperthyroidism, diabetes, or kidney disease. Weight gain, particularly in a less active senior, increases the risk of diabetes and joint problems. Watch for changes in litter box habits. More frequent urination, straining, or accidents outside the box all deserve attention. Watch for changes in coat quality. A cat who stops grooming as thoroughly as they used to may be dealing with pain, particularly arthritis, that makes reaching certain spots difficult. Watch for changes in vocalization, especially at night. A senior cat who suddenly starts yowling in the dark, seems confused, or appears to get lost in familiar rooms may be showing early signs of cognitive dysfunction. And watch for changes in social behavior, either increased clinginess or unusual withdrawal, because both can signal that something is shifting, physically or emotionally. None of these signs means your cat is dying. Many of them are very treatable, especially when caught early. They're just signals. Signals worth noticing, worth tracking, and worth mentioning to your vet. Which brings us perfectly to the next chapter, how to care for a senior cat, day to day, starting with the thing that affects everything else, what you feed them. Chapter 2, Daily Care and Routine. Let's talk about food, because when it comes to senior cats, nutrition is not a simple topic, and the advice floating around online ranges from genuinely helpful to dangerously outdated. We're going to go through all of it, what senior cats actually need, what the common mistakes are, and how to make decisions that serve your specific cat rather than just following generic guidelines. Start with the most fundamental shift in thinking. A senior cat's nutritional needs are not simply less of the same. The aging body processes nutrients differently, absorption rates change, organ function changes, muscle mass changes, and the commercial pet food industry, for all its marketing about senior formulas, has not always kept pace with what the research actually shows. Let's start with protein, because this is where one of the biggest and most damaging myths lives. For years, the conventional wisdom was that senior cats, particularly those with kidney disease, should be fed low-protein diets. The reasoning made intuitive sense. Kidneys filter protein metabolites. If the kidneys are struggling, reduce the protein load. Simple. Except it's not that simple. And for most senior cats, it's actually backwards. Cats are obligate carnivores. Their bodies are built around protein metabolism in a way that no other common domestic animal matches. Unlike dogs or humans, cats cannot downregulate their protein metabolism when dietary protein is reduced. Their bodies continue to break down protein for energy regardless, and if that protein isn't coming from food, it comes from their own muscle mass. This is why senior cats who are fed low-protein diets often lose muscle mass at an accelerating rate, becoming visibly thinner and weaker even when they appear to be eating normally. The cat looks like they're declining from age. In reality, They're declining from inadequate nutrition. The current consensus among feline nutrition researchers is that most senior cats actually need more protein than younger adults, not less, specifically to combat the muscle loss that comes with aging. High-quality, highly digestible animal, protein is the priority. The exception, and this is important, is cats in advanced kidney disease, specifically late-stage chronic kidney disease, where phosphorus restriction becomes critical. In those cases, protein management does become part of the treatment protocol, but that decision should be made by your vet based on actual blood work, not assumed because your cat is old. The takeaway: unless your vet has specifically told you your cat needs a reduced protein diet based on their individual health status, your senior cat should be eating a diet rich in high-quality animal protein. Now let's talk about wet food versus dry food, because for senior cats, this debate has a clear answer that many owners still haven't heard. Cats evolved in arid environments. Their ancestors got the majority of their hydration from prey, not from standing water. As a result, the domestic cat has a relatively low thirst drive compared to other animals. They don't instinctively seek out water the way dogs do, and this has consequences. Dry food contains roughly 8 to 10% moisture. Wet food contains roughly 70 to 80% moisture. A cat eating exclusively dry food is chronically, mildly dehydrated compared to a cat eating wet food, often without showing any obvious signs of thirst. For a young, healthy cat, this may not cause immediate problems. For a senior cat, particularly one whose kidneys are already working harder than they were at 2 years old, chronic dehydration is a serious concern. Kidney disease is directly worsened by inadequate hydration. Urinary tract problems are more common in cats who don't consume enough moisture. Constipation, which is genuinely miserable for older cats, is closely linked to inadequate hydration. This is why most feline nutrition experts and veterinary internists now recommend wet food as the primary diet for senior cats, not as a treat, not as a supplement, as the main source of nutrition. If your senior cat has been eating dry food their whole life and absolutely refuses wet food, all is not lost. You can add water to dry food, use a pet fountain to encourage more drinking, and work on transitioning slowly. Some cats take weeks or even months to accept a new food texture, and that's okay. Slow progress is still progress. What you want to avoid is the assumption that because your cat has always eaten dry food and seems fine, dry food is therefore fine for a senior cat. Fine and optimal are not the same thing. Weight management in senior cats is more complicated than it sounds because the problem can go in two very different directions, and both of them are dangerous. On one end, you have the overweight senior cat. Obesity in cats is unfortunately common, and excess weight in an aging cat puts pressure on already wearing joints, increases the risk of diabetes, makes mobility more difficult, and reduces overall quality of life. An overweight cat is not a happy, well-fed cat. They are a cat whose health is being quietly undermined. On the other end, you have the cat who is losing weight. And this is actually the more common problem in senior cats and the more urgent one. Unintentional weight loss in a senior cat is almost never just getting older. It is a symptom. Almost every major senior cat disease, hyperthyroidism, kidney disease, diabetes, cancer, inflammatory bowel disease, lists weight loss as one of its primary signs. A senior cat who is losing weight, even gradually, even while still eating, needs a vet visit. Not eventually, soon. The tricky part is that weight loss can be hard to notice in a cat, especially if they have a thick coat or if you see them every day and changes happen slowly. This is one of the reasons regular weigh-ins matter. Not obsessive daily weighing, but a monthly weight check, either at home with a baby scale or at the vet, gives you actual data instead of impressions. A loss of more than half a pound over a month or two in an adult cat is worth paying attention to. In a small cat, that's a meaningful percentage of their body weight. Grooming is something most cat owners don't think about much when their cat is young, because cats are famously self-sufficient in this department. But senior cats often begin to struggle with grooming, and this change is both a symptom and a problem in its own right. There are several reasons a senior cat may groom less effectively. Arthritis makes it painful or impossible to reach certain spots, particularly the lower back, the base of the tail, and the hindquarters. Obesity makes flexibility worse. Cognitive decline can reduce the grooming instinct itself. And sometimes it's simply that the cat feels unwell and doesn't have the energy or motivation for their usual routine. The result is a coat that becomes matted, greasy, dull, or develops what's sometimes called a staring texture, where the individual hairs stick up and lose their smooth lie. You may also notice more skin flakiness, or mats forming particularly around the hindquarters and belly. This matters for more than just aesthetics. Mats can become painful as they tighten against the skin. Poor coat condition can indicate underlying nutritional deficiencies or illness, and a cat who has stopped grooming has often stopped because something is wrong. Your role shifts in the senior years to an active grooming partner. Daily or every other day gentle brushing accomplishes several things at once. It removes loose hair and prevents mats. It distributes natural skin oils. It gives you a hands-on assessment of your cat's body. You'll notice lumps, sore spots, weight changes, or skin issues that you might otherwise miss. And for many cats, it becomes a bonding ritual they genuinely look forward to. Use a brush appropriate for your cat's coat type. For long-haired cats, a wide-tooth comb for detangling followed by a slicker brush works well. For short-haired cats, rubber grooming mitt or a fine-tooth comb is usually sufficient. Start gently, follow your cat's lead, and keep sessions short if they're not used to it. 5 minutes done consistently is worth more than an occasional marathon session that stresses them out. If mats have already formed and are close to the skin, do not try to cut them out yourself. The skin of senior cats can be thinner and more fragile than you expect, and injuries from scissors are more common than people think. A professional groomer or your vet can handle this safely. Dental health is one of the most overlooked aspects of senior cat care, partly because looking inside a cat's mouth is genuinely difficult, and partly because dental disease develops slowly enough that it doesn't announce itself dramatically until it's quite advanced. But here's why it matters so much. Dental disease, periodontal disease specifically, is not just a mouth problem. Bacteria from infected gum tissue enter the bloodstream and travel throughout the body. Research has linked chronic dental disease in cats to kidney damage, heart disease, and systemic inflammation. In a senior cat whose kidneys and heart are already under more strain than they were years ago, ongoing dental disease is genuinely harmful to their overall health. The signs of dental disease in cats are often subtle. Bad breath is the most common one people notice, but many owners assume it's just normal cat breath. Drooling, dropping food while eating, chewing on one side, pawing at the mouth, or a sudden preference for soft food over any crunchy textures are all signs of oral discomfort. In more advanced cases, you may see visible tartar buildup, the brownish or yellowish coating on the teeth, or red, swollen gum lines. If your senior cat hasn't had a dental examination in the last year, that's worth scheduling. Dental cleanings under anesthesia, while they require pre-anesthetic blood work for senior cats to ensure safety, are very commonly performed in older cats and make a significant difference in comfort and overall health. At home, daily toothbrushing with a pet-safe enzymatic toothpaste is the gold standard for prevention. If your cat has never experienced toothbrushing, introducing it slowly with a lot of positive reinforcement is possible even in older cats, though it takes patience. Dental treats, water additives, and dental diets are secondary tools. Helpful, but not a replacement for actual brushing or professional cleaning. Movement and play look different for a senior cat, but they don't disappear. And keeping an aging cat physically and mentally active is one of the most important things you can do for their quality of life. The mistake many owners make is assuming that because their senior cat sleeps more and plays less intensely, they don't need or want stimulation anymore. But the need for mental engagement doesn't diminish with age. If anything, for a cat showing early cognitive changes, mental stimulation is protective. It keeps neural pathways active and slows the progression of cognitive decline. The key is adjusting the type and intensity of play, not eliminating it. Long hunting-style sessions with a fast-moving feather wand may need to become shorter, gentler interactions with a slower-moving toy. A cat with arthritis may not want to leap and pounce, but might still engage happily with a toy they can bat from a lying-down position. Puzzle feeders, food dispensing toys that require the cat to work for their meal, are excellent for mental stimulation and can be used even by cats with limited mobility. Aim for at least 2 short play sessions per day, even if short means 5 to 10 minutes. Watch your cat's response and adjust. A cat who engages for a minute and then walks away is telling you something useful. A cat who rolls onto their side and bats lazily at a toy for 20 minutes is having a genuinely good time in their own senior way. One thing to watch carefully during play is any sign of pain or discomfort. Limping, reluctance to use a particular leg, a sudden stop and lick at a joint. These are important observations for your vet. The litter box situation for a senior cat deserves its own conversation, because this is an area where small, inexpensive changes make a disproportionately large difference in daily comfort and dignity. The standard litter box design, a rectangular plastic tub with sides 8 to 10 inches high, is perfectly fine for a young, flexible, pain-free cat. For a senior cat with arthritis, stiff joints, or reduced mobility, climbing over that wall multiple times a day can be genuinely difficult and painful. And a cat who finds the litter box hard to access will start avoiding it, not because they're being difficult, but because it hurts. This is the most common reason senior cats develop inappropriate elimination habits that owners mistake for behavioral problems. The cat isn't protesting. The cat is in pain. The solution is simple. Get a litter box with at least one low entry point, 3 inches or less from the floor. You can buy low entry boxes specifically designed for senior cats, or you can take a standard storage container and cut out a low entry on one side. The box itself should be large enough for the cat to turn around comfortably, at least 1.5 times the length of the cat. Location matters too. As cats age and mobility decreases, having to travel far or climb stairs to reach the litter box becomes a real barrier. A senior cat should have a litter box on every floor of your home, and ideally in the room or area where they spend most of their time. This is not pampering, it is preventing accidents and preventing pain. Cleanliness remains as important as ever. More so, actually, because a senior cat's immune system is less able to handle the bacteria load of a neglected box, and their tolerance for an unclean box often decreases with age. Scoop at least once a day, do a full litter change regularly, and wash the box itself with soap and hot water periodically. The concept of senior-proofing a home sounds dramatic, but in practice, it comes down to a series of small, practical adjustments that collectively make your cat's daily life much more comfortable. Think through your cat's typical day and identify where physical challenges exist. If they sleep on the bed with you, is the jump getting harder? A small set of pet steps or a ramp allows them to get up and down without the impact stress on aging joints. The same applies to their favorite couch spot or cat tree level. Ramps are often better than steps for cats with significant arthritis, because steps require the same kind of joint flexion that is most painful. Floors are worth thinking about. Hardwood and tile floors offer no grip for a cat with reduced muscle strength, and watching a senior cat struggle to walk on a slippery floor is both sad and concerning. Falls in elderly cats can cause injuries that compound existing mobility problems. Non-slip bath mats, carpet runners, or yoga mats placed along common travel routes give their paws something to grip. Food and water bowls placed on the floor require neck flexion that can be uncomfortable for cats with arthritis or spinal issues. Raising bowls to a comfortable height, just a few inches, not dramatically elevated, can make eating and drinking noticeably more comfortable. This is especially worth trying if your senior cat seems to eat or drink less than they used to, or approaches the bowl and then walks away. Warmth becomes more important with age. Senior cats have less insulating muscle mass and less efficient thermoregulation than young cats. A heated cat bed, a warm blanket in their favorite spot, or a self-warming pad can make a significant difference in how comfortable they are, particularly in cooler seasons or in air-conditioned homes. Finally, keep the environment stable. Senior cats, especially those with any degree of cognitive decline, are more sensitive to change than they were when younger. Rearranging furniture, moving their food and litter locations, introducing new pets or loud house guests, all of these create stress that a younger cat might shake off easily, but that an aging cat may struggle with. This doesn't mean your home needs to be a museum, it just means being thoughtful about unnecessary disruption and giving your cat extra reassurance and stability when changes do occur. There's one more thing to cover in daily care, and it's less about physical logistics and more about the texture of your relationship in these years. Senior cats often become more communicative as they age, not always in obvious ways. Some become quieter, but many become more deliberately present with their people, more likely to seek you out, more likely to follow you from room to room, more likely to settle close to you rather than across the room. It's tempting to interpret this as need, as the cat becoming dependent in a way that's different from their earlier independence. And there's some truth to that, but it's also connection. An aging cat who chooses to spend their time near you is making a choice about where they feel safe, where they feel good, where the world makes sense. Pay attention to that, not in a worried, hovering way. Cats notice anxiety and it makes them anxious too, but in a present, available way. When your senior cat comes and sits near you, let them. When they want to be held, hold them. When they want to sleep on your chest at 3 a.m, consider it. These years are finite in a way that the early years don't feel. The daily moments of quiet companionship, your senior cat in the sunny spot on the couch while you work or curled against your legs on a cold evening. Those are not small things. They are the actual content of a shared life, and they're worth showing up for fully. Chapter 3. Vet Care and Prevention. If there is one single change that makes the biggest difference in a senior cat's health outcomes, it is this: twice yearly vet visits instead of once a year. I know that sounds simple, almost too simple, but the research behind it is not simple at all, and understanding why this matters so much will change how you think about veterinary care for the rest of your cat's life. Here's the core issue. A year in the life of a senior cat is not the same as a year in the life of a young adult cat. Remember the aging math we covered earlier. A year for a 10 to 15-year-old cat is roughly equivalent to 4 to 5 human years. You would not expect a 60-year-old person to need a health check only once every 4 or 5 years. The same logic applies to your senior cat. Chronic diseases in cats, kidney disease, hyperthyroidism, hypertension, diabetes, develop on a timeline measured in months, not years. A cat who had perfectly normal kidney values at their annual visit can be in early-stage kidney disease 6 months later. A cat who showed no signs of hyperthyroidism in January can be significantly affected by September. Annual visits create gaps wide enough for serious conditions to develop, progress, and entrench themselves before anyone catches them. Twice yearly visits close that gap. They give you and your vet a rhythm of comparison. This blood work versus the blood work from 6 months ago, that reveals trends before they become crises. And in feline medicine, trends are often more informative than single data points. A kidney value that is still technically within normal range, but has been creeping upward over 3 consecutive visits, tells a story that a single normal result cannot. If cost is a barrier to twice yearly visits, have an honest conversation with your vet about what is most essential and what can be prioritized. Many practices are willing to work with you on this, but know that catching a condition early almost always costs significantly less than treating it after it has advanced. Early kidney disease managed with diet and hydration is a very different financial and medical situation than late-stage kidney disease requiring hospitalization and intensive intervention. So what actually happens at a senior wellness visit? Because if you're going twice a year, it's worth understanding what your vet is looking for and why each piece matters. The physical examination is the foundation of every visit, and a good senior exam is thorough in ways that a quick annual check for a young cat might not be. Your vet should be palpating the abdomen to assess kidney size and texture. Kidneys that feel small and irregular are a classic sign of chronic kidney disease. They should be feeling the thyroid glands in the neck, which can become enlarged nodules in hyperthyroidism. They should be assessing muscle condition, not just weight. A cat can be at a healthy weight but losing muscle mass in ways the scale doesn't reveal. Eyes should be examined because hypertension, high blood pressure, causes characteristic changes in the retina that are often visible on examination before the cat shows any other symptoms. Retinal hemorrhage or detachment in a senior cat is a medical emergency, and it's findable on a routine eye exam. Blood pressure measurement should be a standard part of every senior visit. It is quick, non-invasive, and provides information that nothing else can. Hypertension in cats is both common and silent. Cats do not typically show obvious symptoms until the blood pressure is high enough to cause organ damage. Regular measurement means you catch it before that point. Blood and urine testing are the cornerstones of senior health monitoring. A complete blood count, a chemistry panel, and a urinalysis together give your vet a comprehensive picture of how the major organ systems are functioning. These tests can detect kidney disease, liver changes, diabetes, anemia, and signs of infection or inflammation. For senior cats, running this panel at every wellness visit, twice a year, is strongly recommended. Thyroid hormone levels should be checked regularly, usually as part of the chemistry panel or as an add-on test. Given how common hyperthyroidism is in older cats and how dramatically it changes the management of other conditions when it's present, this is not optional monitoring for a senior cat. Let me spend a moment on what the blood work numbers actually mean, because many cat owners receive printed lab results and have no idea how to read them or what questions to ask. The kidney values most commonly reported are BUN, creatinine, and a newer marker called SDMA. BUN stands for blood urea nitrogen, and creatinine is a muscle metabolism waste product. Both are filtered by the kidneys, so when kidney function declines, these values rise. The problem with BUN and creatinine is that they don't become detectably elevated until roughly 75% of kidney function is already lost. By the time these numbers are high, significant damage has already occurred. SDMA is a newer biomarker that becomes elevated much earlier, when only about 40% of kidney function has been lost. It gives you a meaningful head start. If your vet's panel includes SDMA, this is genuinely useful information for senior cats. If it doesn't, it's worth asking about. Phosphorus levels matter particularly for cats with kidney disease because damaged kidneys cannot excrete phosphorus efficiently, and elevated phosphorus accelerates kidney damage in a self-reinforcing cycle. Monitoring phosphorus and managing it through diet or phosphate binders when necessary is a key part of CKD management. Total T4 is the thyroid hormone value. Normal range in most labs is roughly 0.8 to 4.7 micrograms per deciliter, though ranges vary slightly by laboratory. A value consistently at the high end of normal in a cat who is losing weight, has an elevated heart rate, or seems unusually active is worth discussing even if it hasn't crossed the technical threshold for hyperthyroidism yet. Glucose tells you about diabetes risk and management. Urine-specific gravity, found on the urinalysis, tells you about the kidney's concentrating ability. Dilute urine in a cat who is drinking a lot is an early kidney disease signal. Protein in the urine, also on the urinalysis, is another early kidney marker that often appears before blood values change. You do not need to become a veterinary diagnostician, But knowing what these tests are looking for means you can have a more informed conversation with your vet, ask better questions, and understand the reasoning behind recommendations. Vaccines and parasite prevention in senior cats are areas where the approach genuinely differs from what you do for a young adult, and the standard advice doesn't always reflect this nuance. For vaccines, the current recommendations from most feline medicine organizations are that senior cats should be assessed individually rather than vaccinated on a fixed schedule. The core vaccines, particularly rabies and the FV-RCP combination vaccine covering respiratory viruses and panleukopenia, should be kept current. But the frequency and specific vaccines beyond the core set should be based on your cat's lifestyle, immune status, and individual health situation. Cats who are strictly indoors, healthy, and living in stable, low-exposure environments may be candidates for less frequent vaccination than the label suggests. Cats who are immunocompromised, dealing with chronic illness, or who have had vaccine reactions may need individualized protocols. This is a conversation to have with your vet rather than a decision to make unilaterally, either by over-vaccinating or by simply stopping vaccines because the cat is old. For parasite prevention, many owners of indoor-only senior cats assume that monthly flea and heartworm prevention becomes unnecessary. This is worth revisiting. Fleas can enter homes on clothing, other pets, or through brief outdoor access. Heartworm, while more commonly discussed in dogs, does affect cats and has no approved treatment. Prevention is the only option. Indoor cats are at lower risk, but not zero risk. The specific products used for parasite prevention in senior cats also deserve attention. Some flea and tick treatments, particularly certain spot-on products and oral medications, are metabolized by the liver and kidneys. In a senior cat with compromised organ function, the same product that was perfectly safe at age 3 may need to be reconsidered at age 14. Your vet can guide you on which products are appropriate, given your individual cat's health status. Now let's talk about something that doesn't get nearly enough attention in conventional vet care discussions: how to communicate effectively with your veterinarian about your senior cat. Vet visits are often rushed. 15 to 20 minutes goes quickly, and if you're not prepared, you can leave without having covered the things that actually matter to you. Senior cat owners in particular often walk out of appointments with unanswered questions or a vague sense that they didn't quite explain what they've been observing at home. Prepare before you go. Keep a running list on your phone of anything you've noticed since the last visit: behavioral changes, appetite changes, water consumption changes, any new physical findings you've noticed while brushing or handling your cat. Even things that seem minor or potentially unrelated are worth mentioning. What you notice at home over weeks and months is information your vet cannot get from a 15-minute examination, and it often turns out to be the most clinically relevant piece of the picture. Be specific about timing. "She's been drinking more lately" is less useful than "I've noticed she's emptying her water bowl twice a day over the past 3 weeks, where before I was refilling it every 2 to 3 days. Concrete observations with time frames help your vet prioritize and interpret what you're seeing. Ask the questions you're actually worried about. Many people hold back the questions that feel biggest because they're afraid of the answers. But your vet cannot address what you don't ask. If you're worried about kidney disease because it runs in the breed, say so. If you're wondering whether your cat is in pain, ask directly. If you want to understand what a particular test result means for your cat's long-term prognosis, ask that too. Ask about trends, not just current values. If your cat has had multiple sets of blood work, ask your vet to compare them across time. Her creatinine is still normal is less informative than her creatinine has gone from 1.2 to 1.6 to 1.9 over 3 visits. Is that a trend we should be watching? Good vets appreciate this kind of engaged questioning, and it leads to better care. Finally, don't hesitate to ask for clarification when something isn't clear. Medical language is dense and specialized, and no one should leave a vet appointment unclear about what was found, what it means, or what the next steps are. A good veterinarian will take the time to explain things in plain terms, and if something still isn't clear, you are entitled to ask again. One of the most practical things you can do for your senior cat, something that costs nothing and takes very little time, is keeping a health journal. This doesn't need to be elaborate. A notes app on your phone, a simple notebook, a shared document with family members. The format doesn't matter. What matters is having a written record of your cat's health over time. Track weight monthly, at minimum. Note any changes in appetite, thirst, litter box habits, activity level, grooming, sleep patterns, or behavior. Write down dates of vet visits. And what was found. Keep a copy of blood work results so you have your own record independent of the vet's files. Note any medications given, including doses and how the cat responded. Record any symptoms that came and went, even if they resolved before you could get to the vet. This record becomes invaluable in several situations. When something changes and you're trying to remember when it started, when you see a new vet or a specialist and need to provide history, when you're trying to assess whether a treatment is working, when you're eventually facing difficult quality of life decisions and need to look back at a clear record of good days and bad days over weeks and months. The journal is also useful for your own emotional processing. The experience of caring for an aging cat can be disorienting. You're constantly adjusting to changes, managing uncertainty, and making decisions without clear right answers. Having a written record of what you've observed and what you've done grounds you in facts and helps you trust your own judgment as a caregiver. There is something I want to address directly before we move into the disease chapters, because it comes up repeatedly in conversations with senior cat owners, and it matters. Many people delay vet care for their senior cats because they are afraid of what they'll find out. This is completely understandable. The love you have for your cat is real and deep, and the thought of receiving bad news about their health is genuinely frightening. Knowing something is wrong means having to face it, make decisions about it, potentially grieve it. Not knowing feels in the moment like protection, but it is not protection. It is a delay that most often works against your cat. The conditions that most commonly affect senior cats are, in the majority of cases, manageable. Not curable, there is a difference, but manageable in ways that genuinely extend life and maintain quality of life. A cat diagnosed with early kidney disease who receives appropriate dietary management, hydration support, and regular monitoring can live comfortably for years. A cat with hyperthyroidism who is treated has their quality of life transformed. What looked like lively aging turns out to be illness, and treatment often restores a calmer, more comfortable version of the cat you thought you were losing. The cats who struggle most are not the ones who get bad diagnoses. They're the ones whose diagnoses come late, when options have narrowed and damage has accumulated. Every month of earlier detection is a month of better options. Getting the blood work done, bringing the cat in, hearing the results. These are acts of love, not denial of love. The fear is real and understandable. Go anyway. And on that note, I have a resource specifically designed for the moments when something goes wrong between vet visits. When your senior cat is showing symptoms at midnight and you don't know if it's an emergency. When you need to know what to do right now before you can get professional help. My guide for senior and disabled indoor cats covers exactly these situations: emergency assessment, first aid steps, and how to recognize when something cannot wait. The link is in the description below. Now let's get into the chapter that many of you came here specifically for. The diseases that most commonly affect senior cats, explained in full. What they are, how they develop, how to recognize them, and what you can actually do about them. Chapter 4. Senior-specific diseases. This chapter is the longest one in this entire video, and deliberately so, because this is where most senior cat owners feel most lost, most anxious, and most in need of clear, honest information. When your cat gets a diagnosis, or when you're sitting in a waiting room wondering if they're about to, the last thing you need is vague reassurance. You need to understand what is actually happening inside your cat's body, what the options are, and what the road ahead looks like. That's what this chapter is built to give you. We're going to cover 8 conditions in depth: chronic kidney disease, hyperthyroidism, diabetes, feline cognitive dysfunction, arthritis, cancer, heart disease, and hypertension. These are not the only diseases that affect senior cats, but they are the most common, the most impactful, and the ones most likely to be relevant to you at some point in your senior cat's life. Let's start with the one that affects more senior cats than any other. Chronic kidney disease. Chronic kidney disease, CKD, is the single most common cause of illness and death in senior cats. Studies suggest that more than 30% of cats over 10 years old have some degree of kidney disease, and that number climbs steeply with age. By the time cats reach 15, the majority have CKD to some degree. Those numbers are worth sitting with for a moment. If you have a senior cat, kidney disease is not a distant possibility. It is the condition you are most likely to encounter. Understanding it is not optional preparation. It is essential knowledge for any senior cat owner. So what is actually happening? The kidneys are 2 small organs, each roughly the size of a large grape in a typical domestic cat, that perform an astonishing range of functions. They filter waste products from the blood. They regulate fluid balance and blood pressure. They produce a hormone called erythropoietin that stimulates red blood cell production. They activate vitamin D. They maintain the delicate acid-base balance that every cell in the body depends on. All of this is accomplished by millions of tiny functional units called nephrons. And here is the core problem with feline kidneys. Nephrons do not regenerate. When they are damaged, they are lost permanently. The remaining healthy nephrons compensate by working harder, filtering more, a process called hyperfiltration. For a while, this compensation is effective enough that the cat shows no symptoms and blood work remains normal. But hyperfiltration itself causes additional damage over time, accelerating the loss of the very nephrons doing the compensating. This is why CKD is progressive. It is not a disease that stabilizes on its own. It is a slow, self-reinforcing decline in kidney function, measured in months and years rather than weeks. The IRIS staging system, developed by the International Renal Interest Society, divides CKD into 4 stages based on creatinine levels, SDMA levels, blood pressure, and the amount of protein present in the urine. Stage 1 is the earliest, where SDMA may be elevated, but creatinine is still normal, and the cat shows no clinical signs. Stage 4 is end-stage kidney failure, where the kidneys can no longer maintain basic body functions. Knowing which stage your cat is in matters enormously, because treatment recommendations, dietary requirements, and prognosis all differ significantly between stages. A cat in stage 1 or 2 with appropriate management has a very different outlook than a cat presenting in stage 3 or 4. This is the most concrete argument for the regular blood work we discussed in the previous chapter. Catching CKD at stage 1 rather than stage 3 is not a minor advantage. It is potentially years of good quality life. What does CKD actually look like in a living cat? What will you observe? In the early stages, possibly nothing. This is what makes early detection so critical and so reliant on blood work rather than observation. Stage 1 and early stage 2, CKD often produce no symptoms that even an attentive owner would notice. As the disease progresses, the first things most owners notice are increased thirst and increased urination. The kidneys lose their ability to concentrate urine, so more water is needed to excrete the same amount of waste, and the resulting urine is dilute and pale. A cat who was previously a moderate drinker may begin emptying their water bowl noticeably faster. The litter box may contain larger, wetter clumps than before. Weight loss follows, often gradual at first, a quarter pound here, another quarter pound over the next month, but accumulating into a cat who looks noticeably thinner than they did a year ago. Muscle loss, particularly over the spine and hindquarters, is characteristic. You can often feel the vertebrae and hip bones more prominently than before. Appetite decreases as waste products accumulate in the bloodstream and cause nausea. A cat who was reliably enthusiastic about meals begins approaching the bowl, sniffing, and walking away. In more advanced stages, vomiting becomes common. Lethargy increases. The cat who once engaged readily with play and companionship spends more time sleeping, moves more slowly, and seems generally withdrawn. The coat may lose condition. The cat may look, and genuinely be, uncomfortable. In late-stage CKD, the accumulation of toxins causes a condition called uremia, literally urine in the blood, which produces profound nausea, weakness, neurological changes, and eventually the shutdown of multiple organ systems. This is the end point of advanced kidney failure, and it is the outcome that early detection and consistent management are working to delay as long as possible. What can actually be done about CKD? This is where the picture becomes more nuanced and honestly, more hopeful than many people expect when they first hear the diagnosis. CKD cannot be reversed, damaged nephrons cannot be restored, but the progression of the disease can be slowed, symptoms can be managed, and quality of life can be maintained at a good level for months to years, depending on the stage at diagnosis and the consistency of management. Hydration is the most fundamental intervention. A well-hydrated cat puts less strain on compromised kidneys. Wet food as the primary diet is strongly recommended for all CKD cats. For cats in more advanced stages, subcutaneous fluid administration at home, where you deliver fluids under the loose skin at the scruff using a needle and bag of lactated Ringer's solution, is one of the most impactful things an owner can do. It sounds intimidating. Most owners who learn to do it find that after a few sessions, it becomes routine, and the improvement in their cat is unmistakable. Cats who receive regular sub-Q fluids often have noticeably better energy, appetite, and overall comfort than those who don't. Phosphorus management is critical as CKD progresses. A low phosphorus diet reduces the workload on damaged kidneys and slows the progression of damage. Phosphate binders, medications mixed into food that bind phosphorus in the gut before it can be absorbed, are often added when dietary restriction alone is insufficient. Blood pressure control matters enormously. Hypertension both causes and results from CKD, and managing it protects not only the kidneys but also the eyes, heart, and brain. Amlodipine is the most commonly used antihypertensive in cats and is generally well tolerated. Anti-nausea medications, appetite stimulants, and medications to address anemia, which develops in advanced CKD when the kidneys can no longer produce sufficient erythropoietin, are all tools available to maintain quality of life as the disease progresses. There is also a medication called Simintra, the brand name for telmisartan, which has been shown in studies to reduce protein loss in the urine and slow CKD progression. It is not a cure, but for cats in appropriate stages with proteinuria, it is a meaningful addition to the management protocol. The honest summary of CKD is this: it is a serious, progressive, life-limiting disease. It is also one of the most manageable chronic conditions in feline medicine, particularly when caught early. Cats diagnosed in early stages who receive consistent, attentive management regularly live for years beyond diagnosis with good quality of life. The disease does not define the prognosis. The timing of detection and the quality of management do. Hyperthyroidism. Hyperthyroidism is the most common endocrine disorder in cats, and it is almost exclusively a disease of middle-aged to senior cats. The average age at diagnosis is between 12 and 13 years, and it is rare before the age of 8. The thyroid gland, which sits on either side of the trachea in the neck, produces thyroid hormone, the body's primary metabolic regulator. In hyperthyroidism, the gland develops one or more small benign nodules that function autonomously, producing thyroid hormone regardless of the body's actual needs. The result is a chronically elevated metabolic rate. Every system in the body running faster and harder than it should. Understanding the systemic effects of this hormonal excess explains the clinical picture perfectly. The heart rate increases, the heart muscle hypertrophies, thickens, trying to keep up with the demand. Blood pressure rises. The kidneys, which depend on normal blood pressure for proper filtration, are stressed. The gastrointestinal system is overstimulated, leading to increased appetite, faster gut motility, vomiting, and diarrhea. The metabolic rate burns through calories faster than the cat can consume them, causing weight loss despite an often ravenous appetite. This last feature is what confuses so many owners at first. A cat who is losing weight but eating enthusiastically, sometimes frantically, seems counterintuitive. Many owners interpret this as a sign of a healthy, energetic cat. Some actually feel reassured. But weight loss that continues despite good appetite in a senior cat is a red flag, not a green one. And hyperthyroidism is at the top of the differential diagnosis list. Other signs include hyperactivity or restlessness. The cat who seems unusually agitated, can't settle, vocalizes more than usual, unkempt coat, increased heart rate audible with a stethoscope, and occasionally a palpable nodule in the neck are physical findings on examination. Some cats develop hypertrophic cardiomyopathy as a direct consequence of chronic hyperthyroidism. Here is the piece of the hyperthyroidism story that catches many cat owners off guard, and it is clinically important enough that I want to spend real time on it. Hyperthyroidism and chronic kidney disease are extremely common in the same population of cats, older cats, and they interact with each other in a way that complicates diagnosis and treatment significantly. Elevated thyroid hormone increases blood flow to the kidneys and artificially elevates their filtration rate. This means that a cat with both hyperthyroidism and underlying kidney disease may have kidney values that appear normal on blood work because the hyperthyroidism is masking the kidney disease. The kidneys appear to be functioning well because they are being driven harder than they would naturally be. When hyperthyroidism is treated and thyroid hormone levels return to normal, the artificial boost to kidney function disappears. The true kidney disease that was there all along becomes visible in the blood work. In some cases, it becomes visible very quickly. This is not a reason to avoid treating hyperthyroidism. Untreated hyperthyroidism causes serious, progressive harm to the heart, the kidneys through hypertension, and the overall body. But it is a reason to monitor kidney values very carefully during and after hyperthyroidism treatment, to start with conservative doses that can be adjusted, and to have an honest conversation with your vet about what treatment approach makes most sense given your individual cat's full health picture. The good news about hyperthyroidism is that it is one of the most treatable conditions in feline medicine, with multiple effective options. Methimazole is the most commonly used medical treatment. It works by blocking the production of thyroid hormone. It does not cure the underlying nodular disease, so it must be given continuously for the rest of the cat's life. It is available as an oral tablet or as a transdermal gel applied to the inner surface of the ear flap. The transdermal option is significantly easier for cats who resist pilling. Side effects are possible, particularly in the first few months of treatment, and include facial scratching, vomiting, lethargy, and in a small number of cats, more serious effects on the bone marrow or liver. Regular monitoring blood work is important during the first year of treatment. Radioactive iodine therapy is considered the gold standard treatment. A single injection of radioactive iodine that selectively destroys the abnormal thyroid tissue while sparing the normal tissue. It is curative in the majority of cats, requires no ongoing medication, and has a very favorable safety profile. The main practical consideration is that treated cats must be kept at the veterinary facility for a period after treatment, typically 1 to 2 weeks depending on local regulations. until radiation levels in their body have dropped to safe levels. For many owners, this separation period is the biggest barrier to choosing this option. Surgical removal of the affected thyroid tissue is an effective option, but is less commonly chosen given the availability of radioactive iodine, the anesthetic risks in senior cats, and the technical challenges of ensuring all abnormal tissue is removed. A prescription iodine-restricted diet, marketed as Hills Y/D, can control hyperthyroidism through dietary iodine restriction alone. It requires that the cat eat exclusively this food, no treats, no other food sources, which makes it challenging to maintain in practice. It is sometimes used in cats who cannot tolerate medication or who are not candidates for other treatments. Feline diabetes is less common than is hyperthyroidism or kidney disease, but it is significant enough and the management intensive enough that every senior cat owner should understand the basics. Cats develop a form of diabetes that is most similar to type 2 diabetes in humans. The pancreas produces insulin, but the body's cells become resistant to it, and over time the pancreatic cells themselves can become exhausted and stop producing sufficient insulin. The result is chronically elevated blood glucose, sugar remaining in the bloodstream rather than entering cells where it is needed for energy. The classic clinical signs are the 4 polys: polydipsia, increased thirst; polyuria, increased urination; polyphagia, increased appetite; and paradoxically, weight loss despite the increased eating. Sound familiar? These overlap significantly with hyperthyroidism and kidney disease, which is one reason blood work is essential for distinguishing between them. A characteristic sign specific to diabetic cats is a change in their gait. A condition called diabetic neuropathy can cause weakness in the hindlimbs, and affected cats develop a plantigrade stance, walking on their hocks rather than on their toes, giving their back legs a flattened, lowered appearance. If you notice your senior cat's back legs seem different, lower to the ground, or if their gait has changed in a way that's hard to describe, diabetic neuropathy is worth discussing with your vet. Managing feline diabetes requires a commitment from the owner, but it is absolutely achievable, and the quality of life achievable with good management is high. Insulin therapy is the mainstay of treatment for most diabetic cats. This means twice daily injections, given at consistent 12-hour intervals, ideally with a meal. The injections are subcutaneous, given under the loose skin in the scruff, and the needles used are very fine. Most cats tolerate them remarkably well, and most owners who are initially terrified of giving injections find that within a week or 2, it becomes as routine as filling a water bowl. Finding the right insulin dose takes time and regular glucose monitoring. Many vets now recommend home glucose monitoring for diabetic cats, either using a small glucometer with ear vein samples or a continuous glucose monitoring device designed for pets. This data allows dose adjustments to be made based on actual glucose curves rather than guesswork, and significantly improves regulation. Diet is critical. Cats with diabetes do best on a low-carbohydrate, high-protein, wet food diet. This is one area where the nutritional biology of obligate carnivores is directly clinically relevant. Cats have limited ability to handle dietary carbohydrates, and a high-carbohydrate diet in a diabetic cat makes blood glucose regulation significantly harder. Eliminating dry food and transitioning to appropriate wet food is one of the most impactful dietary changes possible. Here is the part of feline diabetes that surprises many people. Cats, unlike humans, can go into diabetic remission. With optimal management, appropriate insulin, strict low-carbohydrate diet, and regular monitoring, a meaningful percentage of diabetic cats, particularly those diagnosed earlier in the disease process, achieve normal blood glucose regulation without ongoing insulin. Their pancreatic cells recover enough function to maintain control on their own. Remission is not guaranteed, and not all cats achieve it. But it is a genuine possibility, and it is one of the reasons that the quality and consistency of management in the early period after diagnosis matters so much. The cats most likely to achieve remission are those whose diabetes is caught early, who receive appropriate insulin therapy promptly, and who are transitioned to low-carbohydrate diets. Feline cognitive dysfunction. Feline cognitive dysfunction syndrome, CDS, is the condition most often described as the cat equivalent of dementia or Alzheimer's disease. It involves the progressive degeneration of brain tissue and function, and it is far more common than most people realize. Studies suggest that cognitive dysfunction affects approximately 28% of cats between 11 and 14 years old, and more than 50% of cats over 15, more than half of cats over 15. This is not a rare condition. It is common enough that any owner of a senior cat should know what it looks like and what can be done about it. The clinical signs of cognitive dysfunction are sometimes remembered with the acronym DISHA, disorientation, interaction changes, either increased clinginess or social withdrawal, sleep-wake cycle changes, house soiling, activity changes. Disorientation is one of the more striking signs when it appears. The cat seems confused in familiar environments, standing in the middle of a room looking lost, walking into corners and not knowing how to back out, failing to recognize people or spaces they have known for years. Some cats appear to stare blankly at walls or into space for extended periods. Sleep-wake cycle changes are often what brings owners to the vet because the effects are impossible to ignore at 2 in the morning. Cats with cognitive dysfunction commonly have their sleep cycles inverted or disrupted, sleeping heavily during the day, and then becoming active, restless, and vocal at night. The nighttime vocalization associated with CDS is distinctive. A loud, plaintive, repetitive yowling that seems to have no specific cause and does not stop when you respond to it. It can be exhausting for owners and heartbreaking once you understand what it represents. House soiling in a previously impeccable cat, not just litter box avoidance but actual failure to find or remember the litter box, can be an early sign of cognitive dysfunction rather than a behavioral problem or a pure medical issue. It often occurs alongside other signs. Social changes vary. Some cats with cognitive dysfunction become unusually clingy, following owners everywhere, seeking constant contact in a way that feels qualitatively different from affection, more anxious, less contented. Others become withdrawn, spending more time alone, less responsive to interaction, seeming to retreat from the world. The honest answer about treatment for feline cognitive dysfunction is that options are limited compared to what we have for some other conditions. But limited does not mean nothing. Environmental management makes a significant difference in quality of life. Keeping the environment stable and predictable is critically important. Rearranging furniture, changing feeding locations, or introducing new elements to the home can cause profound disorientation in a cat with cognitive dysfunction. Nightlights in rooms the cat uses can reduce nighttime confusion. Maintaining consistent daily routines provides structure that helps orient a disoriented cat. Mental enrichment, puzzle feeders, gentle interactive play, sensory stimulation through things the cat finds comforting may help slow cognitive decline by keeping neural pathways active. This is consistent with research in both human Alzheimer's patients and aging dogs. A supplement called Life and a prescription diet called Hills B/D have some evidence supporting their use in feline cognitive dysfunction, though the evidence base in cats is not as strong as in dogs. These may be worth discussing with your vet as part of a broader management approach. Melatonin has been used by some veterinarians to help regulate disrupted sleep-wake cycles, with anecdotal reports of improvement. There is also growing interest in the use of monoamine oxidase inhibitors, specifically selegiline, in affected cats, though this is used more commonly in dogs with cognitive dysfunction. Managing coexisting conditions that may be contributing to cognitive symptoms is important. Pain from arthritis, systemic illness, or sensory deficits like hearing or vision loss can mimic or worsen cognitive dysfunction signs. Treating these conditions effectively sometimes produces meaningful improvement in the overall clinical picture. The most important thing to understand about CDS is that it is not your cat being difficult or naughty. It is a neurological disease. The cat yowling at 3 in the morning is not trying to wake you up. They are frightened, disoriented, and confused. The response they need from you is not frustration. It is gentle reassurance, a calm, familiar voice, and the presence of someone they trust. Arthritis. Arthritis, specifically degenerative joint disease, is probably the most underdiagnosed condition in senior cats. Not because it is rare, because cats are extraordinarily good at hiding pain, and because the signs of arthritis in cats look nothing like the signs most people associate with the word. When people think of arthritis, they think of limping, overt lameness, a dog who yelps when they try to stand up. Cats almost never present this way, even with severe arthritis. Their pain-hiding instinct is so deeply embedded that they simply stop doing things that hurt, and the absence of behavior is far harder to notice than the presence of distress. Research using X-rays to assess joint changes in senior cats finds evidence of degenerative joint disease in the majority of cats over 10 years old, and in nearly all cats over 15. This is not a condition affecting a minority of aging cats. It is the baseline reality of an aging feline musculoskeletal system. Yet the majority of these cats are never diagnosed or treated for pain. The behavioral signs of arthritis in cats are subtle and behavioral, not primarily physical. A cat who used to jump to the top of the cat tree and now stops at the middle level. A cat who hesitates before jumping onto the bed. A cat whose grooming has deteriorated, particularly in areas that require twisting or flexibility to reach. A cat who is more irritable when touched, particularly along the spine or near the hips. A cat whose interactions have become more limited, who seeks out interaction less and prefers to be left alone. Changes in litter box behavior are one of the more telling signs. A cat with arthritic joints may stop using a litter box that requires climbing over a high side, or may start going just outside the box rather than stepping in, because the stepping action causes discomfort. This is frequently misinterpreted as behavioral litter box avoidance and addressed with behavior modification when it actually needs pain management. Treatment for feline arthritis has expanded meaningfully in recent years, and there are now more options than at any previous point in veterinary medicine. For many years, pain management in cats was genuinely difficult. Many of the anti-inflammatory medications routinely used in dogs and humans, including most NSAIDs like ibuprofen or naproxen, which should never be given to cats, are toxic to felines due to the way their livers metabolize certain compounds. This left vets with a limited toolkit. A medication called meloxicam, a veterinary NSAID specifically formulated for cats, has been used for pain management in senior cats for some time, though with careful monitoring of kidney function given the potential effects on renal blood flow. More recently, a monoclonal antibody treatment called Solensia was approved specifically for the management of pain due to osteoarthritis in cats. It works by targeting a protein called nerve growth factor that plays a key role in pain signaling. It is given as a monthly injection by a veterinarian. Early results suggest it provides meaningful pain relief with a favorable safety profile, and it represents a significant advance in feline pain management options. Gabapentin is widely used for chronic pain in cats, particularly neuropathic pain. It is generally well tolerated and can be given orally. Many cats with arthritis benefit from it as a component of a multimodal pain management plan. Environmental modifications we discussed in the daily care chapter, ramps, low-entry litter boxes, raised food bowls, warm beds, are not just comfort enhancements for arthritic cats. They are pain reduction strategies. Every time you eliminate a jump or a steep climb from an arthritic cat's daily routine, you reduce the number of times per day they experience pain. Over weeks and months, this compounds into a genuinely different quality of daily life. Weight management is critically important for arthritic cats. Every pound of excess weight is additional load on already compromised joints. In cats who are overweight and arthritic, weight loss is often one of the most impactful interventions available, producing improvement in mobility and apparent comfort that can be striking. Cancer is a word that produces immediate fear, and that fear is understandable. But the reality of cancer in senior cats is more varied than a single word suggests, and it is worth understanding the landscape. Cancer becomes more common with age in cats, as it does in most mammals. The immune system's ability to identify and destroy abnormal cells decreases with age, and the accumulated effects of a lifetime of cellular replication increase the probability of errors occurring. This is simply biology. The most common cancers in senior cats differ significantly from those most common in dogs or humans, and knowing which types occur most frequently helps direct appropriate monitoring. Lymphoma is the most common cancer diagnosed in cats, and it most often affects the gastrointestinal tract in senior cats, specifically the small intestine. Gastrointestinal lymphoma in cats exists on a spectrum from low-grade, slow-growing disease to high-grade, aggressive disease, and the distinction matters enormously for prognosis and treatment. Low-grade small-cell lymphoma, the most common form in older cats, is often described as a relatively manageable chronic disease. Many cats with this diagnosis, treated with a combination of prednisolone and chlorambucil, live for 2 or more years with good quality of life. High-grade lymphoma is considerably more aggressive, with shorter median survival times, even with chemotherapy. The signs of gastrointestinal lymphoma often develop gradually. Weight loss, decreased appetite, intermittent vomiting or diarrhea, or changes in litter box habits. These overlap with other gastrointestinal conditions and with hyperthyroidism, which is why diagnosis requires blood work, imaging, and often biopsy or intestinal aspirates. Mammary tumors, breast cancer, occur in cats, and unlike in dogs where roughly half of mammary tumors are benign, approximately 90% of mammary tumors in cats are malignant. Early detection and surgical removal is critical. This is also one of the strongest arguments for spaying cats early in life. Spaying before the first heat cycle dramatically reduces the risk of mammary cancer, and spaying before 2 years of age still offers significant protection. Oral squamous cell carcinoma is one of the more devastating feline cancers. It occurs in the mouth, often under the tongue or on the gums, and is locally aggressive and unfortunately resistant to most treatments. Weight loss, difficulty eating, dropping food, drooling, and bad breath in a senior cat, particularly in combination, warrant a prompt oral examination. Prognosis is generally poor, and management typically focuses on quality of life and comfort. Injection site sarcoma is a rare but serious tumor that can develop at the sites of previous injections, historically associated with certain adjuvanted vaccines. This is one of the reasons vaccination protocols have evolved toward limiting vaccines to the distal limbs, where possible, allowing surgical amputation with clear margins if a tumor develops. Any lump that develops at an injection site and persists or grows should be examined promptly. Navigating cancer in a senior cat means making decisions that balance potential benefits of treatment against the cat's overall health status, their tolerance for treatment, and quality of life considerations. These are genuinely difficult conversations, and there are rarely clean, right answers. Chemotherapy in cats is generally much better tolerated than in humans. Cats do not lose their hair. Severe nausea and vomiting, while possible, are less pronounced than in human oncology. The goal of chemotherapy in veterinary medicine is typically not to push to the maximum tolerable dose in pursuit of cure. It is to use doses that control disease while maintaining quality of life. This distinction matters because it means that many cats with cancer who receive chemotherapy feel reasonably well during treatment. Surgery, radiation therapy, and palliative care are the other primary tools. The right combination, or the decision not to pursue treatment, depends on the specific cancer type, the stage of disease, the individual cat's overall health, and honestly, the practical and emotional realities of the family involved. What I want to convey is that a cancer diagnosis is not automatically a death sentence, requiring immediate crisis decisions. Many cancer diagnoses in senior cats come with weeks or months to gather information. Consult with a veterinary oncologist if your regular vet recommends it, and make thoughtful choices. Taking that time to understand your options fully is not giving up. It is the most informed way to advocate for your cat. Heart disease. Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, HCM, is the most common heart disease in cats, and it affects cats of all ages, though the risk increases with age. In HCM, the muscular walls of the heart thicken, reducing the ability of the heart chambers to fill properly and impairing the heart's efficiency as a pump. The insidious feature of HCM is that many affected cats show no clinical signs for months or years. The heart compensates remarkably well in the early stages. Some cats are diagnosed incidentally when a vet hears a heart murmur on a routine examination. Others are diagnosed only when the disease has progressed to a stage where signs become apparent. When signs do appear, they are often sudden and frightening. The most dramatic presentation is acute respiratory distress. A cat breathing rapidly and with effort, flanks heaving, mouth open, clearly struggling. This typically occurs because advanced HCM leads to congestive heart failure, where fluid accumulates in the lungs or in the chest cavity, compressing the lungs and making breathing difficult. This is a genuine emergency requiring immediate veterinary care. Other signs include lethargy, decreased appetite, reduced activity tolerance, and in some cases sudden hind limb paralysis caused by a saddle thrombus, a blood clot that forms in the heart and travels to block the aorta at the point where it branches to the hind legs. Saddle thrombus is one of the most acute and distressing emergencies in feline medicine, presenting as sudden loss of function in one or both hind legs, cold paws, crying out in pain. It requires immediate veterinary attention and, unfortunately, carries a guarded prognosis. Management of feline HCM depends on the stage of disease. Cats with compensated HCM and no signs of heart failure may be monitored without medication initially, with treatment initiated when indicated by echocardiography findings or the onset of symptoms. Once congestive heart failure develops, treatment typically involves diuretics, most commonly furosemide, to remove fluid accumulation. Atenolol, a beta blocker, may be used to slow heart rate and allow better filling. Clopidogrel, an antiplatelet medication, is often used to reduce the risk of blood clot formation and saddle thrombus. Echocardiography, an ultrasound of the heart, is the definitive diagnostic tool for HCM. It measures wall thickness, chamber dimensions, and cardiac function in real time and allows both diagnosis and monitoring of progression. For cats with known HCM, periodic echocardiography helps guide treatment decisions. The prognosis for HCM varies enormously. Some cats with mild HCM remain compensated for years with no progression to heart failure. Others progress more rapidly. Cats who reach congestive heart failure have a more guarded prognosis, though with appropriate management, many still have months of acceptable quality of life. Hypertension. Hypertension, high blood pressure, earns its reputation as the silent killer in cats, just as it does in humans. It causes progressive damage to multiple organ systems while producing few or no obvious symptoms until the damage is already significant. Normal blood pressure in cats is generally considered to be below 160 millimeters of mercury systolic. Readings between 160 and 179 are considered mildly hypertensive. Above 180 represents moderate to severe hypertension with significant risk of organ damage. The organs most vulnerable to hypertensive damage in cats are the eyes, the kidneys, the brain, and the heart. Hypertension causes the small blood vessels in the retina to become brittle and prone to rupture. Retinal hemorrhage, bleeding into the eye, and retinal detachment are among the most dramatic acute consequences, and they can cause sudden, complete blindness. A cat who suddenly seems unable to see, who bumps into furniture, whose pupils are fixed and dilated in normal light. This can be hypertensive retinal detachment and requires emergency treatment. The relationship between hypertension and kidney disease is bidirectional and self-reinforcing. CKD causes hypertension. Hypertension damages kidneys. Managing blood pressure. In CKD cats is not just cardiac care, it is kidney protection. Hypertension in cats is most commonly secondary to another underlying disease, most often CKD or hyperthyroidism, both of which drive blood pressure up through different mechanisms. Treating the underlying cause sometimes improves blood pressure, but direct antihypertensive treatment is usually needed as well. Amlodipine is the most widely used and most effective antihypertensive in cats. It is a calcium channel blocker given orally once daily. It is well tolerated by most cats and produces reliable blood pressure reduction. Telmisartan, mentioned earlier in the CKD section, also has antihypertensive effects and is sometimes used as an alternative or in combination. Because hypertension is silent, the only way to know if your cat has it is to measure it. This is another reason why blood pressure measurement at every senior wellness visit is not optional monitoring. It is essential screening for a condition that is both common and damaging, and that is entirely treatable when caught. Before we leave this chapter, I want to say something about what it means to carry this information as a cat owner. You may have read through these 8 conditions and felt the weight of all the things that can go wrong. That feeling is real, and I am not going to dismiss it. But here's the other side of what this chapter represents. Every one of these conditions has been discussed here because every one of them has a treatment, a management strategy, or at minimum a way to approach it that gives your cat the best possible quality of life for the most possible time. None of them are hopeless. None of them are without options. The cat owners who do best by their senior cats are not the ones who know the least and worry the least. They are the ones who know enough to catch things early, to ask the right questions, to recognize what they're seeing, and to make informed decisions when it matters. You now have that knowledge. Use it. But don't let it become fear. Let it become confidence. Chapter 5. Emotional bond and behavioral changes. Everything we've covered so far has been largely clinical. Blood work, medications, disease stages, treatment protocols, all of it essential, all of it genuinely useful. But there is another dimension to caring for a senior cat that the clinical information doesn't fully address, and it is the dimension that most cat owners think about more than any other. Not what's happening in the blood work, what's happening between you and your cat. Because senior cat ownership is not just a medical experience. It is a deeply personal, emotionally complex, sometimes quietly devastating, and often profoundly beautiful one. And the relationship you have with your cat during these years, how you understand it, how you navigate it, how you show up for it, matters as much as any of the treatments we've discussed. This chapter is about all of that. Let's start with the changes you may notice in your senior cat's personality, because these can be disorienting in ways that people don't always expect. Most cat owners have a very clear sense of who their cat is, their particular temperament, their quirks, their ways of communicating and connecting. You know this cat. You've known them for 10, 12, 15 years. And then, gradually or sometimes more suddenly, something shifts. The cat, who was reliably independent, becomes unusually clingy. The cat who was sociable starts spending long hours alone. The cat who greeted you at the door every evening without fail begins staying in the bedroom. The cat who never meowed much begins vocalizing more. Or the cat who always had something to say goes quiet. These changes are not arbitrary, and they are not your cat becoming a different cat. They are your cat communicating something about how they feel physically, about what they need emotionally, about how their inner experience is changing as they age. Increased clinginess in a senior cat is one of the most common and most meaningful changes. A cat who begins following you more, seeking physical contact more consistently, wanting to be in the same room rather than choosing solitude. This is usually a cat who needs more reassurance than they used to, more certainty, more of the sensory experience of a trusted presence. It can be caused by mild cognitive changes that make the world feel less predictable. It can be a response to physical discomfort that makes closeness feel safer. It can be a deepening of the bond itself. Some cats seem to become more openly affectionate in their senior years in a way that feels like a softening of earlier reserve. Whatever the underlying cause, the appropriate response to this clinginess is not to encourage dependence or to discourage it. It is simply to be available, to be the consistent, calm presence your cat is seeking. To not always be somewhere else when your senior cat needs to find you nearby. The flip side, withdrawal and increased solitude, carries different meaning and deserves different attention. A senior cat who is retreating from social interaction, spending unusual amounts of time in isolated spots, responding less to familiar interactions, or who has simply become harder to find during the day. This cat is often not simply becoming more independent. They are often not feeling well. Pain causes withdrawal. Nausea causes withdrawal. Anxiety, cognitive confusion, and the general discomfort of systemic illness all cause cats to seek solitude in the instinctive, ancient way we discussed in the first chapter. A cat who retreats is not always telling you they want to be left alone. Sometimes they are telling you something is wrong and they don't have another way to say it. The distinction between chosen, comfortable solitude, a confident cat who enjoys their quiet time, and distressed withdrawal is usually visible in the same quality of the cat's demeanor when you do interact with them. A cat having a peaceful nap in a sunny spot is different from a cat who is hunched in the back of a closet and doesn't emerge for meals. Trust your observation of your specific cat, because you know this individual better than any general description can capture. Anxiety and stress deserve particular attention in aging cats because the threshold for both tends to lower with age. Young cats often adapt to change with relative flexibility. Senior cats, particularly those with any degree of cognitive decline, tend to be more vulnerable to stress and slower to recover from it. Changes that a younger version of your cat barely noticed, a house guest visiting, a rearrangement of furniture, a change in your schedule, may now cause visible distress that takes days rather than hours to resolve. This is not behavioral regression or your cat becoming difficult. It is a neurological and physiological reality of aging. The brain structures that regulate stress response are affected by the same aging processes affecting everything else. The calming systems become less efficient. The world becomes, in a meaningful biological sense, somewhat more alarming and harder to process than it used to be. What helps is what has always helped cats feel secure: predictability, routine, and the steady presence of a trusted person. Keeping feeding times, interaction patterns, and the physical environment as consistent as possible is not overprotection of an old cat. It is appropriate accommodation of a changed nervous system. When environmental stressors cannot be avoided, a move, a construction project, a family change, preparing your senior cat in advance where possible, creating a quiet sanctuary space they can reliably retreat to, and using calming aids like synthetic feline facial pheromone products can meaningfully reduce the stress response. Anxiety that is severe, persistent, or causing the cat to stop eating or functioning normally is worth addressing with your vet, because there are both behavioral and medical interventions that can help. Anxiety is not something a senior cat simply has to endure. There is something that happens in the relationship between a person and their senior cat that is harder to describe clinically, but that almost everyone who has loved an aging cat recognizes when it is named. The relationship deepens. Not in all cases, and not in every dimension, but many people report that the connection they feel with their cat in the senior years has a quality to it that earlier years didn't. More intentional, more present, more mutual in a way that's difficult to articulate, but unmistakable to experience. Part of this comes from paying more attention. When you know a relationship is finite, when you are aware in a way you weren't before that this particular chapter will not last indefinitely, you tend to notice more. The specific weight of your cat in your lap, the exact sound of their purr, the way they position their head when they sleep. You are more present because the presence feels more precious. Part of it comes from the cat. Senior cats who feel safe and loved often do seem to engage their humans differently than they did in youth. Not worse, differently. With something that reads, to those paying attention, like a particular kind of trust. The trust of an animal who has known you for years, who has seen you in your various states of mood and busyness and distraction, and who has chosen to stay close anyway. Some of the richest human-animal bonds that exist anywhere are between people and their senior cats. Not in spite of the difficulty of those years, because of it. Now let's talk about something that often goes unacknowledged in the context of senior cat care, even though it is experienced by a significant percentage of senior cat owners: caregiver fatigue. If your cat has a chronic condition requiring daily medication, regular fluid administration, modified feeding, mobility assistance, or management of nighttime vocalization, or some combination of several of these, the cumulative physical and emotional demands are real. You may be getting less sleep. You may be organizing your schedule around your cat's needs. You may be spending significant money. You may be carrying a constant background level of worry that does not fully turn off. And you may feel guilty for noticing any of this. Because you love your cat, and guilt is the default response when love and exhaustion exist in the same space. Let me say clearly, caring for an aging cat who needs significant management is genuinely hard. The fatigue is real. The worry is real. The grief that begins before any formal loss, the anticipatory grief of watching someone you love change, is real. None of this cancels out the love. All of it can coexist with the love. Taking care of yourself during this period is not selfish. It is necessary. A caregiver who is running on empty, who is too depleted to notice subtle changes, who is too exhausted to be a calm presence, that caregiver is less able to provide the quality of care their cat needs. Rest, support, and honest acknowledgement of how hard this is are part of being a good caregiver, not a departure from it. Seek support where you can find it. A vet team that takes your questions seriously and communicates clearly. Online communities of other senior cat owners who understand the specific experience. Friends or family members who won't minimize what you're going through. And if the weight becomes genuinely heavy, if you are struggling with depression, complicated grief, or a sense of being overwhelmed that isn't lifting, please consider speaking with a therapist or counselor who works with pet owners or with a pet loss support service. These exist, they are not frivolous, and you deserve support. When there are other animals in the household, the senior cat's changes ripple outward in ways that can surprise even experienced multi-pet owners. Animals are acutely sensitive to the health and emotional state of others in their social group. This has been documented in cats, dogs, and many other species. Other cats in the household often notice before you do that something is shifting, before any diagnosis, before obvious symptoms. Changes in how they interact with the affected cat, increased vigilance around them, or conversely, changes in their own behavior and routine can all be early signals worth noting. Some companion cats respond to an aging housemate with increased affection, grooming them more, spending more time physically close to them. Others become more distant as the familiar scent and behavior of their companion changes, which can be confusing and sometimes distressing for owners to watch. Neither response is wrong. Both reflect the other animal's genuine perception of a change in their social environment. Dogs in the household may become more attentive and calmer around a senior cat. Some dogs seem to modulate their energy and behavior in response to an animal they perceive as vulnerable, an instinct that is genuinely touching to observe. What all of this means practically is that managing a senior cat's environment includes considering the impact on other animals, ensuring the senior cat has spaces that are accessible to them and not easily invaded by a more energetic younger pet, making sure the senior cat's food, water, and litter box are not being monopolized or disrupted. Watching for signs that stress between animals is contributing to the senior cat's overall stress load. Perhaps the most important thing I can offer in this chapter is a reframe of what the senior cat relationship asks of you. It asks you to be more present with less certainty. The early years of cat ownership come with a certain comfortable predictability. The cat is healthy, playful, thriving. The future is long. The day-to-day worries are relatively small. You can be somewhat distracted and still show up adequately. Senior cat ownership does not allow the same comfortable distance. The relationship asks you to be genuinely present, to notice, to adapt, to respond, to make difficult decisions without perfect information. It asks you to hold your love and your grief and your worry simultaneously and to keep showing up anyway. This is not a burden unique to cats. It is what every profound attachment eventually asks of us. The willingness to stay fully present when staying fully present is not always easy. Your senior cat has spent years learning you, your patterns, your voice, your emotional rhythms, the specific way you smell when you've been outside versus when you've been home all day. You are their primary landscape, the main structure around which their world is organized. What they need from you in these years is not veterinary expertise. That's your vet's job. What they need from you is exactly what you have always been: present, consistent, safe. Those three things, offered with genuine intention, are the most powerful form of care available to them. There is one more dimension of the senior-cat relationship that deserves its own space before we move into the final chapter, and it is the one that is perhaps most important and least often spoken about directly. How to help an aging cat feel genuinely happy, not comfortable, not managed, not simply free of acute distress, happy. Because here is something that gets lost in the clinical focus of senior cat care conversations. Quality of life is not only about the absence of suffering, it is about the presence of joy. Small cat-sized joys, yes, but real ones. A senior cat who has a warm spot in afternoon light and uses it. A senior cat who still engages with a slow-moving feather toy for a few minutes and then lies down satisfied. A senior cat who seeks out laps and finds them available. A senior cat who still has favorite things: a particular blanket, a window with a view, the sound of your voice reading aloud in the evening. These are not trivial observations. They are the actual content of a good life. Watch for what your senior cat still enjoys, not what they used to enjoy when they were 3, what they enjoy now. Some things will have changed. Others, perhaps unexpectedly, will remain. There is something deeply moving about a 15-year-old cat who still has particular enthusiasms, who still lights up for certain things, who still has preferences and opinions and moments of apparent contentment. Honor those things. Protect them. Create conditions where they can happen regularly. The afternoon sunspot matters. The lap matters. The slow, gentle conversation matters. These are not small things. They are everything. Chapter 6, End of Life, Hospice, Quality of Life, and Letting Go. This is the chapter I want you to read, even if you skip everything else. Not because it is the most urgent right now. If your cat is healthy and thriving, everything in this chapter may feel distant, even abstract. But the owners who navigate the end of a cat's life with the least regret, who feel afterward that they did right by their cat, are almost always the ones who thought about these things before they had to, who had the framework in place before the crisis arrived. So please stay with this chapter, even if it's hard, especially if it's hard. Let's start with something that sounds clinical but is actually one of the most compassionate tools available to you as a senior cat owner: quality of life assessment. When a cat is in decline, when you are watching them change week by week, when the good days and bad days are becoming less evenly distributed, The question that sits at the center of everything is one that most people find almost impossible to answer clearly when they are in the middle of it. Is my cat still having a good life? Not a perfect life, not a young life, not a life without difficulty, a good one. A life where the experience of being alive, on balance, contains more comfort and contentment and connection than it does suffering, confusion, and distress. This question deserves more than a feeling. Feelings in this context are overwhelmed by love and grief and hope and fear, all of which are real, and all of which make clear seeing very difficult. What helps is structure, a framework that lets you assess what you are actually observing, separate from what you are hoping for or afraid of. The most widely used quality of life scale in feline end-of-life care was developed by veterinary oncologist Dr. Alice Villalobos. It assesses 7 categories, sometimes remembered with the acronym HHHHHMM: hurt, hunger, hydration, hygiene, happiness, mobility, and more good days than bad. Hurt asks whether pain is being successfully managed, whether the cat appears comfortable, at rest and during movement, whether their breathing is normal and unlabored. Hunger asks whether the cat is eating enough to maintain reasonable body condition, whether they can be assisted with feeding if needed, whether they still show any interest in food. Hydration asks whether the cat is adequately hydrated, whether dehydration, assessed by skin tint test, gum moisture, sunken eyes, is present and whether it can be corrected. Hygiene asks whether the cat can be kept clean and comfortable, whether wounds, sores, or coat condition issues can be managed in a way that preserves dignity. Happiness asks whether the cat expresses interest in their surroundings, whether they still respond to family members, whether they have moments of engagement, contentment, or what reads as pleasure. Mobility asks whether the cat can move well enough to satisfy basic needs, to reach food, water, and the litter box. Whether they can be assisted where needed without distress. More good. Days than bad is the summary question. Over the past week, over the past 2 weeks, has the balance tipped toward acceptable days or toward predominantly difficult ones? Each category is scored on a scale, and the total gives you a numerical snapshot of quality of life at a given moment. The score itself is less important than the practice of returning to the assessment regularly, weekly, or every few days in a cat who is declining, and watching how the numbers change over time. This practice does something important beyond the information it produces. It gives you a record. When you are eventually facing the decision that this chapter builds toward, you will have weeks of observations to look back on. You will be able to see the trend clearly, and that record, created by your own careful attention, becomes one of the most trustworthy guides you have. There is a simpler version of quality of life assessment that many veterinarians recommend alongside formal scales, and it is this. Make a list of the 5 things your cat loves most, the things that have always defined their enjoyment of life, their particular pleasures, their enthusiasms, the things that make them unmistakably themselves. Maybe it is sitting in a specific window in afternoon light. Maybe it is the first few minutes after you come home. Maybe it is a particular food, a particular toy, a particular way of being held. Maybe it is simply the act of grooming contentedly after a meal. Write these down, all 5, now and not during a crisis, when memory is distorted by emotion. Then, as your cat's condition changes, assess how many of those 5 things they are still experiencing regularly. A cat who still has 4 or 5 of their core pleasures, even in modified form, is likely still in a place where life holds meaning for them. A cat who has lost most of them, who no longer seeks the window, no longer responds to the homecoming, no longer shows interest in the food they used to love, is telling you something important about where they are. This is not a formula. It is a framework. It is imprecise and personal and subjective, but it is grounded in what you actually know about your actual cat, which makes it more useful than any generalized rubric. Hospice care is a term borrowed from human medicine, and in the context of senior cats, it refers to a philosophy and a practice rather than a specific medical protocol. Feline hospice care means choosing to focus on comfort, dignity, and quality of remaining life rather than pursuing aggressive curative treatment. It is not giving up. It is a deliberate, thoughtful reorientation of goals. From extending life at any cost to making whatever life remains as good as it can be. This shift becomes relevant when curative treatment is no longer available, when the burdens of aggressive treatment outweigh its benefits, or when you and your vet have reached a shared understanding that the primary goal is now your cat's comfort and peace. In practice, hospice care for a senior cat involves pain management as the central priority. No cat should experience pain that can be addressed. The options for feline pain management have expanded significantly, and ensuring your cat is genuinely comfortable, not just theoretically managed, requires regular, honest reassessment. Cats do not always show pain in obvious ways. If you are unsure whether your cat is comfortable, ask your vet to evaluate specifically for pain and advocate for treatment if there is any doubt. Nausea management is equally important. A cat who is nauseous is a cat who is suffering even if they are not vomiting visibly. Reduced appetite, restlessness, excessive salivation, and a hunched posture can all indicate nausea. Effective antiemetic medications exist and should be used when needed. Hydration support in the form of subcutaneous fluids administered at home or at the vet can significantly improve comfort even in cats whose underlying disease is no longer treatable. Dehydration causes its own discomfort, lethargy, headache in all likelihood, decreased tissue function, and addressing it even palliatively is a kindness. Nutrition in hospice becomes less about hitting ideal macronutrient targets and more about keeping the cat eating and maintaining interest in food. Warming food slightly to release aroma, offering a variety of textures, hand feeding, or providing whatever foods your cat responds to, even if they are not what you would choose under other circumstances, are all appropriate in a hospice context. A cat who eats a little of something they love is better off than a cat who refuses the therapeutically optimal food. The physical environment in hospice care is organized entirely around comfort and access. Soft, warm bedding in the places your cat prefers, litter boxes in multiple locations, as close as possible to where your cat spends time, food and water within easy reach, the elimination of obstacles and challenges that require effort your cat may no longer have, and perhaps most importantly, your presence. Calm, quiet, available, not hovering anxiously, not performing grief in a way the cat will sense and respond to with their own distress. Just there, reading, working quietly, watching television, existing in the same space, available to be found when your cat needs the reassurance of a familiar presence nearby. At some point in caring for a senior cat, most owners reach a question that is unlike any other question they will face in their relationship with this animal. Is it time? I want to talk about this question honestly because it is surrounded by so much guilt and uncertainty and cultural messaging that getting to a clear, grounded place with it is genuinely difficult. Euthanasia, the deliberate, peaceful ending of life to prevent or end suffering, is legal, available, and widely considered by veterinary professionals to be one of the most important gifts we can give animals in our care when the time is right. It is the option that does not exist for humans managing their own end of life, and it is something that pet owners sometimes carry without fully recognizing it as the profound act of love that it is. The fear most people carry around euthanasia is not usually the act itself. It is the decision, the responsibility of it, the worry that they will decide too early and take time their cat still had, the worry that they will wait too long and allow suffering they could have prevented, the terror of getting it wrong. Here is what I want to offer in place of that terror. There is no perfect moment. The nature of a living being declining gradually means there is no day that is unmistakably the right day, and no day that is unmistakably the wrong one. The window is wider than the fear suggests, and most decisions made thoughtfully, made with a quality of life framework, with veterinary guidance, from a place of genuine love and attention to the cat's actual experience, fall within a range that is right. The owners who are most at peace afterward are not always the ones who chose the earliest moment or the latest. They are the ones who paid attention, who used all the information available, who had conversations with their vet, who made the decision intentionally rather than by default. Waiting until crisis, until your cat is in acute distress, unable to breathe, unable to stand, unable to find any comfort, is not the only alternative to deciding too early. The middle ground, the space of deliberate and considered decision-making, is available to you. Let's talk about what the decision-making process actually looks like in practice, because having a structure for it before you need it makes it significantly less overwhelming when you do. The conversation starts with your vet, not a single conversation at the moment of crisis, but an ongoing relationship in which you and your vet are aligned on what your cat's diagnosis means for their trajectory, what markers you are watching for, and what your values and priorities are. Ask your vet directly, not when you are in crisis, but at a regular appointment when you have the space for a real conversation. What the end stages of your cat's condition typically look like. What will you observe? What will change? What are the signs that quality of life is becoming compromised in ways that are not reversible? What are the signs that we are approaching the end of what management can offer? These are not morbid questions. They are responsible questions. The answers give you a map. And having a map means that when you are navigating difficult terrain, you are not doing it blind. Ask your vet when they think the conversation about euthanasia will become relevant. Ask what they would watch for. Ask what they would recommend for their own cat in similar circumstances. Veterinarians who have long-term relationships with their clients generally appreciate this kind of direct, honest engagement. It is not asking them to predict the future. It is asking for their clinical wisdom as a partner in your cat's care. When the time does approach, when quality of life assessments are trending downward, when good days are becoming fewer, when your cat's list of joys has shortened significantly, there are some things worth knowing about how euthanasia works in practice. The procedure itself, when performed by an experienced veterinarian, is peaceful. It is typically a two-step or single-step process involving an overdose of a barbiturate that causes unconsciousness followed by cardiac arrest within seconds. There is no pain. Most cats show no distress. The transition is quiet and quick. You have options about where this happens. In-clinic euthanasia in the vet's office is the most common. It is also possible and increasingly available to have a veterinarian come to your home to perform euthanasia in the environment where your cat has always felt safest. Home euthanasia removes the stress of a car journey and an unfamiliar environment for a cat who is already compromised. It allows you to be in your own space, to grieve privately and immediately, to hold your cat in a familiar place. If this option is important to you, look into home euthanasia services in your area before you need them, so you have the information ready. You can be present with your cat during the procedure. Many people are, and most who choose to be present report that they are glad they were. Being there means your cat's last sensory experience includes your voice, your touch, your scent, the things that have always meant safety to them. It is not easy, but it is a final act of presence that many owners find deeply meaningful. You do not have to be present if you cannot be. There is no right answer. What matters is that your cat is treated with gentleness and care by the people administering the procedure, and that you make the choice that you can live with. Let's talk about grief, because it is coming and it deserves to be treated as what it is. The loss of a cat, particularly a cat who has been a companion for 10, 12, 15 years or more, is a significant bereavement. It is the loss of a relationship that structured daily life, the loss of a presence that was there when you woke up and there when you went to sleep and there through years of your own changes and challenges. The loss of something that loved you in the particular, uncomplicated, consistent way that only an animal can. This grief is real. It is proportionate to the love and the years and the presence. It does not require justification, and it does not become smaller or more acceptable because the relationship was with a cat rather than a human. You may find that people in your life do not fully understand this. You may encounter the well-meaning but painful "it was just a cat" response, or be surprised by how inadequate normal social support feels when you are grieving a pet. This is unfortunately common, and it is not a reflection of the validity of your grief. It is a reflection of a cultural failure to recognize the genuine depth of human-animal bonds. Seek out people who understand, other cat owners, online communities specifically organized around pet loss, friends who have been through this themselves. Grief is not meant to be carried alone, and finding the right witnesses for it matters. The practical reality of loss often catches people off guard. The empty food bowl, the habit of looking toward the sunny spot where your cat always slept, opening the door and waiting for someone who no longer comes. These small daily collisions with absence are part of grief, and they do not resolve on a schedule. They resolve in their own time, and the appropriate response to them is patience with yourself. There is no timeline for grief. There is no right amount of time to feel it or the right way to move through it. What is real is that it changes. It does not stay as acute as it is in the first days and weeks. It integrates gradually into who you are and what you carry. There is something that many people experience after the loss of a senior cat that is worth naming directly, because it is common and because not knowing it is common can make it feel more frightening. Guilt. Almost everyone who has loved and lost a senior cat experiences some form of guilt afterward, that they waited too long, that they decided too early, that they should have found a different vet, tried a different treatment, noticed the signs sooner, been more present, been less anxious about the cost, spent more time on the floor with their cat in the last weeks. This guilt is almost never proportionate to the actual facts. It is the natural product of love applied retrospectively to an imperfect situation where there were no perfect options. The guilt says I would have done anything, given everything. And the loss reveals that anything and everything were not enough to prevent the loss. And that unbearable gap between love and limitation gets processed, sometimes as guilt rather than grief. If you are carrying this guilt, please hear this. You loved your cat. You sought help, and you made decisions with the information and capacity you had at the time. You did not fail them. You were their person, and you showed up, imperfectly, humanly, completely. The fact that you are thinking about this now, reading a chapter like this, preparing yourself, that is what caring looks like. Not perfection, presence. I want to close this chapter with something that sits outside the clinical and the practical, because I think it belongs here. Cats live shorter lives than we do. We know this when we take them home. We agree to it implicitly when we choose to love something whose time with us is measured in years rather than decades. And yet the knowing does not protect us from the grief. It was never meant to. What it can do, if we let it, is make us more present for the time we have, more attentive, more deliberate about the quality of the daily life we create together, more willing to sit on the floor for an extra 20 minutes because our senior cat has settled against us and seems content, and the emails can wait. The length of a life is not what makes it meaningful. The depth of presence within it does. Your senior cat has given you years of their complete trust, their particular affection, their daily company. They have loved you in the unguarded, uncomplicated way that very few relationships allow. And they have needed you, genuinely, specifically needed you to be the person who paid attention, who showed up, who knew them well enough to make the hard calls when the time came. That is not a small thing to be for another living creature. It is, in fact, one of the most meaningful things a person can do. Outro. We have covered a lot of ground in this video, what it means for a cat to be senior, how to care for them day to day in ways that match their actual needs rather than the needs they had at 2 years old, how to partner with a vet in a way that catches problems early and gives you the most possible time and options, 8 of the most common and significant senior cat diseases, explained in full, the emotional reality of the bond between you and an aging cat, and the end of life, the hardest part, the part that deserves clear, honest preparation. If you watched all of this in one sitting, thank you. If you came to a specific chapter for a specific reason, I hope you found what you needed. And if you bookmark this to come back to over time as a reference through different stages of your senior cat's life, that is exactly what it was made for. Senior cat ownership is not easy. It asks things of you that earlier cat ownership didn't. It asks you to pay closer attention, to make harder decisions, to hold more complexity, to love something fully while knowing that fully loving something always carries the risk of loss. But it also gives you something that earlier cat ownership, for all its ease, doesn't always offer in the same way. The particular intimacy of being truly needed, of being someone's whole world in the years when the world has become smaller and more precious, of showing up consistently for a creature who has spent a decade or more building their entire sense of safety and belonging around your presence. The cats who are lucky enough to grow old with people who pay attention, who notice the subtle changes, who adapt the environment, who sit on the floor when sitting on the floor is what's needed. Those cats have something remarkable, not a long life by any absolute measure, but a good one, a genuinely good one. Thank you for being the person who watches out for that. If you found this video useful, please share it with someone who has a senior cat in their life. Subscribe if you want more content like this. We go deep on the things that matter for cat owners who take their cats seriously. And if you want a resource specifically for those middle-of-the-night moments when something seems wrong and you need to know what to do right now, my guide for senior and disabled indoor cats is exactly that. It is in the description below. Take care of your cat. Take care of yourself. I'll see you in the next one.